Was it instant success for you? Was it struggles? How did you go about
I was
really planning
chasing.
out your business?
I was driving to some of the worst houses ever. It was not easy. I would get a referral for, trailers and I had one guy and I would drive down to Washington Courthouse. I went to 42 places for a $50,000 house, but I have to say, like I told you, I like to learn. I
Hmm.
like to learn and he taught me. He was buying a house for his daughter who was moving up here from Florida. He taught me everything about electric. He taught me knob and tube. He taught me how to look at drywall. He taught me about flooring. Every house we went into, he taught me how to smell raccoon crap, the difference between that and rat urine. And I listened to everything he told me. So he taught me how to climb up in and look at rafters in the attic. I mean, he taught me floor joists. Every house, and he finally put a bid on one. And I was thinking, oh my God, he wants to buy this. And the funny thing is when his daughter moved back here, we became friends and she got a job at Real Estate. She still works there with Ronnie.
Oh,
And
wow.
she's a fantastic person. And her parents are fantastic people. My first house, I made $800. But it
Yeah.
was my best $800 because if I could tell you how much I learned from that man, the
Yeah.
best traveling I ever did, I probably spent over 2000 in gas.
I want to dive into that because I think two things. One, what was that conversation like for you being a new agent and then really having a client show you and teach you those things? I mean, because was it, hey, I'm brand new and I really don't know these things, or could he kind of like pick up on those things and just,
He had no idea. He thought I was a seasoned agent. He thought I was seasoned. And I got 4 leads off of that because the people we walked into these rental houses, I handed them my card. I sold them homes
yeah,
because
yeah.
I walked around like I was big shit. I did. They thought, oh, look at this old woman. She knows everything. I was handing them my card. I said, hey, when you're ready to buy, yeah. Oh, yeah, when you're ready to buy. He thought I was seasoned.
Yeah.
And because I was going, yeah, you're right. That is knob and tube. And tell me what you see there. And I would take notes. I'm writing it down. I said, yeah, so you're right. That's by the time I was going into my 42nd house with him, I was like, knob and tube. What are you going to do with this? Tell me about this. And I would just kind of play it.
Yeah. Do you
So
think did, your dad was in insurance, and I'm always curious of like, parent dynamic and like how that plays into like kids. Like I grew up no entrepreneur, in my household, right? My grandfather a little bit, but um, for you, like, do you naturally have some of those abilities and skill sets to just connect with people in those scenarios? Like
I
I
don't
call
know.
it like for me, I always struggled early on of like working through those types of situations,
I never
right?
had a
Of playing that off.
I never had a problem to get in front of a crowd. Like when I had to do a speech in school, my mom would say, are you ready for the speech? And I said, never thought about it. I've never had a problem with that. When I had to give in front, like do conferences, or I used to have to get up in large crowds in front of like 300 or 400 teachers and do trainings. And my partner that did it with me, she'd say, did you plan this out? Do you have an agenda? And I go, no. You either
Yeah.
know the stuff or you don't. And
Yeah.
so I would get up in front of teachers and it would be recorded. I did not have a problem because I knew what I was talking about. And then when I started doing real estate, I was like, I don't know anything. It was a learning curve. And I was like, for the first time out of my element, and I loved it. I love not knowing anything because I was bored before. So I'm reading this stuff but I could Google. Like, someone would walk to another room and I'd go, Google, Google. Okay, so what does that mean? What do those initials mean? What's knob and tube? And I'm reading it real quick and going, oh yeah, old electric. I got that. That's not good.
Yeah.
So
I love I love it.
so I could BS my way through it. And then when I got home, I'd read about it. And then the next one, I did not fail. I did not falter. And there are
Hmm.
times, I'd have to say, that's a Tom question. You got to go to
Hmm.
Tom. I'm totally out. And I admit when I'm out of my element, And I admit
Yeah.
when I Googled it and it's coming up, the house has cancer. So the house has
Yeah.
cancer. It's going to
Yeah.
die.
Yeah.
It's a Tom
Yeah.
question.
The second thing I wanted to point out there was, $800 check, right, for your first one. And I try to tell every single agent this that gets into the business: don't ever judge a lead based off of or a situation based off of a price point, and always volunteer your time. One of the things that I did early in my career, that I had the opportunity to do early in my career, was a ton of showings.
Mhm.
My mentor and Ryan, he was giving up the buy side business. I was his buyer's agent. I did every single buyer deal. He did every single listing deal. And I tell people, one of the fastest ways that I was able to learn was by seeing and showing homes. And it wasn't just opening up a door and just walking through and saying, "Oh, hey, did you like it?" But actually looking at this roof compared to the roof that we just came from, right? This furnace compared to that, and then cross referencing. Okay, hey, that furnace was 2008, and this furnace, it says 2012, and then picturing the difference in how it looked, right? And those 42 homes you mentioned, right? You learned so much, and it was the best $800 that you ever got,
Mhm.
which then led to multiple sales. One of my best, sales was a $30,000 house that I sold down in Groveport
Mhm.
that turned into over $1 million in volume, right, over the years because of the referrals that it brought me.
Right.
And I just so encourage agents, if you're getting into the business, if you're listening to this and you're brand new, volunteer your time.
Mhm.
Do the showings. Yes, it's going to cost you your time. Yes, it's going to cost you your gas, but it's not just opening the door and just walking through. There's so much that you can learn
Mhm.
in each and every house. And you may get a client that's willing to share and teach you too.
Right. And it's not even when with my team, I tell them, if you are in this for the money, yeah, the money will come. But I come with the premise that everybody deserves a home, everybody
Mm-hmm.
deserves a piece of real estate. I have gone into some of the most atrocious homes in Columbus City schools. I got in this because those people that I saw living in that filth deserve to own. They deserve to invest. And I've had a couple people from Columbus that I've talked to, or rentals, because I started doing rentals. They don't deserve and they didn't ask to be placed in that situation. So you have to have some kindness in your heart. And if you're not working hard, then you're not really doing a good job, because this business is hard.
Mm-hmm.
We're 95%, listening to what people need. And sometimes you can get people to invest in themselves. And you never know, when they're young enough, they might be buying houses that are 500,000 in the future. But you got to
Mm-hmm.
listen and get them there. They just don't know how.
Yeah. Yeah. I always say everyone's worth at least 30 minutes of my time, right? Maybe
Everybody.
that's the first showing, and then
Mhm.
from there, turning it into a consultation. And, I was just taught early on, just because of the way how I built my business with internet leads, you just never judge the book by the cover.
And then there's
Um,
times that they don't help themselves. And then you kind of
right.
have to step back and say, look, I've given you the tools. But, and sometimes they call you 10 years later or 5 years later and say, I'm ready now.
Yeah.
Thanks for giving me at least time years ago. And I've had that before, where they do call a couple years later and say, we weren't ready then. We weren't ready to listen. Now we are.